All right, I'm going to keep it going, Davey, because I want to bring in Congressman John Mannion. Congressman, good morning. And, well, you've made a real bit of a news story out there this morning.
Well, listen, Keeler, I'd rather not be in the news. You know, what we need in this country and have had for a very long time is congressional oversight. And when the president and his administration exceeds their executive powers, then members of both parties should be willing to stand up and express their displeasure with that. And there's a long list of things where this has occurred, and it continues to happen and to more extreme level. And the people that I talk to in New York 22, whether it's areas where I got more votes than my opponent or less, they all express the same concerns to me. And, you know, as what we've seen occur, yes, my colleague in the Senate, Alex Padilla, went to question the Secretary of Homeland Security, and a U.S. senator in his own state in his own office building was put on the ground and zip-tied. And I'm always going to tell people the truth, and I've been telling the truth for years and since the beginning of this, and people are terrified. They're terrified. They're terrified of where this country is headed.
And listen, I do want to say that I've heard from both sides on this today, on what happened yesterday. And I have people that were finally Mannion is stepping up and he's challenging Republicans to do the same. But I've also heard the opposite side of that as well, the people that did not like what you did. So what do you say to those who say this is embarrassing for Congress that we're going through this? They can't seem to get anything done because we're so divided. What do you say to those people who weren't happy with you yesterday?
Yeah, I represent a district where there are many more leaders in my district and the same in the New York State Senate that are Republicans, and I've worked with them well. But what we cannot have, what is bad for this country, what is bad for our children and future generations, and which is unprecedented, is a president of the United States who is defying the rule of law, who, when the Congressional Budget Office says that this reconciliation bill is going to raise the debt, he attacks the Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan. When a judge applies the law and does not rule in his favor, and judges have ruled in his favor in regards to these executive orders and other actions.
Well, the appellate court in California just did.
Yeah. The vast majority have not. He attacks the judge. That's un-American and unprecedented and dangerous, and we continue down this dangerous path.
Listen, I've heard a couple of reports out of what happened in California, and I realize there's a lot coming out of California that is real. There's a lot coming out that isn't real and that has been distorted on Los Angeles. But they're saying that the senator went in. He was not wearing a Senate pin. He was not identified. That Nome and security did not know who he was, and it just looked like a regular person charging the podium, and that he was taken down not because he was a U.S. senator, because they did not know he was a U.S. senator. How do you respond to that? And then and some saying, by the way, that this was a setup, that he was setting up security to take him down to create this moment.
What is happening at this moment in our country? We've had the arrest of my colleague in Congress who was trying to provide oversight at a detention center. She was charged with assault. We've had a senator in the office building who everyone in the video hears him say, "I'm Senator Alex Padilla." This is a small piece of a much larger puzzle that is continuing to being built, that is based on the defiance of the rule of law, the replacement of inspector generals and joint chiefs in the military with loyalists, actions by the president creating his own meme coin and stable coin to benefit himself and his family members, using his position of power, and not just raising campaign funds, benefiting personally, and using that action to provide access to him. That is authoritarianism. That is not the United States of America. And if you look at an article in the Wall Street Journal today, there is a headline that says, America is losing sight of its political culture. This administration has repeatedly engaged in unprecedented acts. And you know what? My Republican colleagues, some are true believers, but they're legislators. They're educated. They know it. They know it's Congress's role to provide oversight. So there are not hearings happening when the President of the United States is profiting off of his position. That is corruption, period. So we can talk about an action in Los Angeles, but This is what's happening to our country. The water that is being carried by the Republicans who should be providing oversight is Trump's water, and that water is poison to this country. We, for months and years, have talked about this lurch towards authoritarianism, and we are watching it happen in real time. In real time. Yeah.
I will. Have you had any conversation with Representative Lawler, who, by the way, is a moderate in Congress?
That's right. That's why Mike Lawler is a smart guy. I've spoke with Mike Lawler right after the Trump administration started, after Inauguration Day, and I asked him if he thought the systems would hold, and he said yes. And we had a conversation regarding that. Well, that was 4 or 5 months ago, and the systems are breaking.
Yeah, well, you quoted him yesterday saying America is falling apart. You believe America is falling apart?
We're gutting the government workforce illegally, by the way, right? We are breaking collective bargaining agreements. America's standing as it regards to research, we're cutting funding all over the place. This president is taking an action to keep press away, or like what happened yesterday and what he has said, to try to stop funding for different press organizations. So these things are not the will of the people, because I talk to Trump voters every day who say, I did not ask for this. Our standing in the world is not better than it was 6 months ago. When I speak with small business owners and large business owners, the uncertainty of tariffs and trade policy, which falls under congressional authority, and the president has been found to be using executive powers that are not appropriate and applying acts that are not relevant in this case, and judges have ruled on that. Judges who have been appointed not just by Republicans, but by Donald Trump. So I will tell you that my experience when I'm at the grocery store, when I'm talking to people at Memorial Day parades, they're terrified because they're seeing unprecedented acts occur over and over and over again, including the blanket pardoning of people who stormed the United States Capitol, if we can compare that to Senator Padilla, stormed the United States Capitol to interrupt the pillar of democracy, which is the peaceful transfer of power. And that is not what the people of this country wanted, including, I believe, the majority of Trump voters, and definitely the vast majority of people that live in New York 22.
I will tell you, I'm getting a lot of reaction, by the way, from a lot of people that I'm not going to get in. I'm not going to read, and I'm looking at Mark Butler to the left of me. However, there are Republicans who absolutely agree with you and feel that Trump is moving towards more of an you know what I'm saying? They are Republicans who walked away from the party. The problem you have, however, is that when you look at polling, President Trump's numbers actually have gone up since the action at the border and the arrest the arrest of non-documented citizens. His numbers are going up. How do you convince the rest of the country that this is a problem when the rest of the country, in terms of a majority, seems to disagree with you?
I'm going to talk about the area that I represent, and I've run since 2018. Donald Trump is not popular. His type of politics are not popular in New York 22, the places that I've represented. So he does not have more people in New York 22 approving of his politics, his actions. Is anyone saying that these actions are not authoritarian? Because by definition, they are.
Yeah.
So I'm not, listen, I'm here to represent the people of this region, and I'm going to continue to do so. I'm also a former educator, and I'm not partisan. Folks, authoritarianism is bad for the children and grandchildren of staunch Republican supporters. And I represent those people too.
Yeah.
But it's my job to let them know that they should be very concerned when there is a lack of oversight, when there are actions. I mean, just the crypto piece alone is unprecedented, beyond unprecedented. That basically on the day of inauguration, the President of the United States releases his own currency.
I want to ask you finally about tomorrow. Tomorrow is Flag Day. It is also President Trump's birthday. There will be many protests around the country. No Kings protests. There will be counter demonstrations that will occur throughout the country as well tomorrow, and that should be an interesting day. However, Washington, it'll be very interesting. Your comments on the big parade that is coming tomorrow.
Well, there's also, an article that's out there today that I just referenced that says America is losing sight of its political culture. And in that article, one of the resonating phrases is, "We don't do that." We are the strongest country in the world. We are the greatest country in the world. But what we don't do is what places like North Korea do, which is put our tanks in the streets and march them down so that we can show that we're the toughest. Some of the statements that the Republican has said are, extremely unique to the statements that American presidents have said in the past. So what I would say is, again, this is an unprecedented act. I'm proud of our military, and I support our military. I have had multiple members of my family serve in the military. I hold veterans fairs, multiple veterans fairs a year. I've secured funding specifically for veterans, including mental health services. I'll be participating in events for active military and veterans in the next few days. So I support them. But we, as a country, have not put tanks in the street and marched them down. Now, it's the president's prerogative to do so, and that is what he has decided to do. But for me, we have been the country that we are because we don't have to stand there and do such an obvious show of force, because the world already knows that we have the strongest military in the world.
Congressman John Mannion, we appreciate the time. Maybe you and Congressman Lawler will speak today. That might be possible.
Well, Mike Lawler and I have spoken many times in the past. And, if Mike Lawler gives me a call, I'll pick up the phone.
All right. Congressman, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Keeler.
All right. Have a great weekend. Congressman John Mannion, I have a lot of comments on it, and you as well.
Well, I just think there was a little bit of deflection. He didn't really address what the conversation was about does he justify his behavior and what he did.
Well, I disagree with you on that. I think he completely, absolutely said he justified it. He just told you why. He just told you why he did it.
Putting tanks on the street.
Listen. He just told you why he did it, and that he would do it again. I'd say that's taking ownership. Whether you agree with what he did or not, I don't think he. In his defense, I don't think he avoided answering the question at all.
Well,
now you can vehemently disagree with him, but to say he avoided the question, I'm sorry, that didn't happen.
But his argument is that civility and all of that in the Congress, it's falling apart. It seems to me like he's carrying a spear there. Then at the head of that, I think that's a little hypocritical.
That's a fair assessment.
And we go from that to tanks on the streets. I mean, look, I don't agree with everything Trump does. I think the ultimate.
Well, you do not feel that I asked him the question about the parade tomorrow?
Yeah.
That he answered the question. That's on me, I guess.
Yeah.